Hi, and welcome back to Plastic Models by Regular Dude, and continuing on with the Tamiya M8 Greyhound. So where I left off last time, I'd primed the inside, I'd primed the wheels, primed some of the interior detail parts, so I can get that painted white. I also decided that I wanted to add a little extra detail to the inside, since I'm going to have both of the front hatches open. So I did a little research online, and I found a website that had some photos from a walk around, and for full disclosure, give credit where credit's due. I don't know, hopefully you can see. Yeah, it looks like you can see this okay. It's the website is toadmanstankpictures.com. Okay, and he has some really nice photos of walk around of the M8. So I'm using that for reference for the interior detail. Now here's some examples. Now the first part I'm going to work on is going to be the inner front part right here. So I pull up some pictures of that area. Now this is the steering column here going down. Here's a cluster of looks like maybe for the fuel system, whatever. There's a lot of parts in here behind the dashboard, which is right here. Now I am not going to be building all that, because what I did is I temporarily affixed the dashboard to the inside of this, and I put this in place just to kind of get an idea of what can actually be seen down in there. And even from the sides, you would not see behind the dashboard. So I don't want to go into like a super detailing deal. I just want to get the major components. So I won't be doing all of that. I will, however, probably do some controls, the foot pedals. Looks like clutch, brake, and then the accelerator pedal there. I'll be doing that. On the passenger side, there's a couple of boxes on the front inside of here. I'm going to scratch build a couple of those. I'm going to scratch build this container here for the right side. Again, this part up here, this wiring and tubing, I'm not going to be doing that, just because it's going to be up underneath here, so you won't be able to see it. So that's another view. There's a cylinder here. I can't tell what it is exactly. It looks like a plumbing fitting of some kind. I'll probably scratch that and glue that on there with a piece of wire going down. There's the interior again, the steering column, and that cluster. I'm thinking it might be a primer or choke, something like that, for the fuel system. So that's for that. So that's my plan. I'm going to take each segment of the vehicle and determine what can be seen. You know, like I'll be adding some wires to the inside here. Just add that extra detail. This is open underneath here on the real vehicle, so I'll probably put some stowage in there just to give it a little bit of interest. And that's what I'll do going around on the inside. So that's what I'm going to start working on. I'm going to start scratch building some of those parts and see what I can come up with. And once I get those parts scratch built and installed, then I will be spraying the interior of this. And I think I'm going to go, you know, I mentioned before that there was different combinations of, you know, white sides, with this part being green, then this part and this part being white, and then, you know, the sides being white, bottom white, sides white, bottom green. So I think in order for Maximum visibility, I'm going to go with white on the entire interior, walls and floor, and then this part here, and then that'll give me a good base so I can do some really nice, you know, oil stains and weathering and stuff like that. Like in here, there's just oil, just all, and fuel or whatever, all crudted up inside of there. So I think that will help with that, so it'll just look a little more lifelike, I guess. So that's the plan on that. So I'm going to get working on that and then come back. So I've got some of the scratch building going on for the interior. As you can see here, I built this little container box, 2 more storage boxes, and an accelerator pedal. And then right here, you'll be able to see it through the top hatch. Right in here, the brake and clutch pedal, and I lined them up so that the steering column goes between them like it shows in the pictures. So I've got that part done, and you know, it's kind of, these are crude representations, but again, it's just to give the appearance that there's something down in there, and to give a place for weathering and oil stains and stuff to be. It's not going to be real detailed, but you know, you're not going to be able to see inside anyway, just to give the appearance that there's, you know, more components inside the vehicle. I also started working on some of the piping and hydraulic lines and electrical lines that would be on the inside of the vehicle. Right here I got some wire, and I'm gonna have to glue these together again. They came apart, but anyway, again, that's way when you look in the hatch, you will actually see something inside, you know, on the inside, to show that there actually is components inside. So I'm letting the wire components dry. So I'm going to work a little bit on the turret, which I've got the interior details and this upper plate cemented in place, and then filled and smoothed out these seam lines, so those will be good for paint. So that part of it's done. So the next part I'm going to do is work on the main gun, and it looks like all of the main gun components are on sprue D, which is right here. So I'm going to start clipping off some of these parts and get them ready to assemble. While my excuse me, while my main gun dries up, I've got some of the parts put together, and I'm letting that set up so I can do some sanding. I am working some more on some of the other parts. Number one, there's going to be wires running along the inside of the vehicle, and wires and hoses, as I mentioned, and there's got to be some kind of hangers. So what I did is I got this spare piece of leftover photo etch fret, and I cut some of these parts off and fabricated some hangers, as you can see here, just using a drill bit and some scissors to cut them off, to attach to the side so the wires can run through. So that's one thing. And then what else? And then the front of the turret is supposed to have some casting marks. So back this up a little bit. As you can see here, using a leftover sprue from the Academy M4A3 with T34 Calliope that I built a few months back, I had all these parts here that you can cut off and use for different things. So I used some of the letters and numbers and made some casting marks for the front of the turret. as you can see here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use liquid, you know, the Tamiya extra thin, and put some on here to kind of help blend it in a little bit better to the surface of the turret. Soften them up. I can mash them down so it looks like it's, you know, actually molded on, just not some glued on parts. So that's just a little detail I thought I would add just to make it look a little better. So I'll continue with this stuff and come back. Okay, so I got the wiring installed along this side. Now something I noticed in doing my research, that the radio compartment should actually be on this side, and this plate right here with the storage bin should be on that side. Okay, but I didn't discover that until after I already had everything cemented in, and I'm not cutting anything out, so it's going to have to stay backwards. So my wiring is also kind of a little bit backwards, but anyway, just a little disclosure there on a lack of proper what do you call it, what you call research. So anyway, I have my electrical lines and hydraulic lines running through the side, and what I did right here, let me see if I can zoomulate it. Is using some scraps from a photo etch fret like this right here. I made my own brackets. I think I mentioned that in the last little segment, but they came off and they worked quite nicely. So I was able to hang the wires through there. So I got that little bit of detail on there, and now I need to tack this one down with some super glue. I'm sorry. I need to tack this one down with some super glue, and then after I get that, after I'm letting that dry, then I'm going to assemble the turret basket with all the parts except for the seats. Yeah, actually I'm going to do the seats as well. And then I'm going to spray this, the steering wheel, and the inside of the vehicle, the wires. I'm going to spray that with Tamiya XF2 white, which is what the instructions call for, and get all those interior parts painted white. Then I can move on. The turret, as I mentioned, I got these pretty well settled in, the casting numbers, just using Tamiya extra thin over and over. It kind of melted it and got it nice and flush. Shouldn't be any gaps or anything around any of these letters or numbers. So by the time I get it painted, primed and painted, it should look pretty good. And once I prime it, I'll take a look at it and see if it's still too raised looking. I might sand it down just a little bit. But got that done. I finally cemented the instrument panel in. Right there. Let's see if I can get it to focus. There we go. So I got that cemented in. So that's ready to go, as well as the foot pedals. So that's ready. Then let's see, after that I'll just continue building. The main gun has been assembled for the most part. I was letting it dry a little bit, so now I can finish assembling that and get that primed and ready to go. And in the mail today, or yesterday maybe, can't remember, get so much mail these days, I got my Archer Fine transfers. M8 light armored car instruments and placards, so I've got those. That'll come in handy for the fire extinguisher. Comes with decals for that. Then I got the stars, and these I can use on all kinds of different kits, but I wanted to use dry transfers instead of the Tamiya kit decals. And then more of verbiage and stuff. Specifically what I'm wanting on here is the lift here. You probably can't see it because of the glare and this is white on white, but it says lift here for a couple of points around the vehicle. So I've got those, so I can do that part when it comes time. So I'm going to continue assembling this so I can get it painted. So I will be back. Okay, so here's where I am right now after the last segment. I've got the interior done here as far as paint. The wiring and hosing has been installed, the seats, the extra parts. So there's that. I got the steering wheel glued in place, so that's ready to go. So what I'm working on now is the turret ring. I've got the radio's painted. I'm waiting for it to dry a little bit more before I do detail painting on that. I sprayed the inside of the turret, so that's ready to go. So the next part I'm working on, I also have the main gun has been sprayed and it's ready to go, except for detail painting of the machine gun. So I'm working on the turret ring. That's been sprayed. I primed it, painted it, and then I painted the seats. And now, I didn't even notice it until I started looking on the instructions here for these Archer transfers. The numbered graduations around the edge of the turret ring are included in this M8 Greyhound transfer set. So they also provide this sheet here, which basically makes it into a like a wet slide transfer instead of a dry transfer. And I guess in looking at the website, the difference between this and decal film, whenever you put, basically what you do, I'm jumping ahead of myself. You take whichever part of the decal that you want to slide onto the model, and you burnish it down onto this backing paper right here. It's called wet media paper, and you transfer it on here. Then you basically cut out, leave yourself some room to hold it with some tweezers, or preferably some self-clamping tweezers, while you soak it. And basically what it does is it soaks that dry transfer, it makes it into a wet transfer. Okay, so only the decal part itself will come off. Okay, and you slide it into place. There's no decal film. Now they do make decal film that you can basically make these dry transfers into a regular decal, but wherever you cut out, like if you were to cut it out real big, you'd have a really big piece of decal film. But this is a little bit different. So anyway, that's what I'm going to work on next. I'm going to start putting the numbers all around this turret ring here. Then I can also put the decals on the after I paint the fire extinguisher. I have to paint it red. Then I can put the decals on the fire extinguisher because it comes with those as well. So I'm going to work on that for a little bit and then come back. But just a real quick note, so far all the fit has been perfect. Hasn't been any surprises. Everything's working great. So I'll come back in a minute. Alright, the interior is pretty much done. I do need to put some flat on the seats because they're kind of shiny from my gloss coat for weathering, but I just weathered the inside with black wash, toned down black wash, and then I put decals at various points. On the sides here, got the radio installed, detail painted. Let's see what else I do. Put some rust and filth, oil stains in the front of the vehicle here. You won't be able to see much of it, but you know, it will, you know, add a little bit from when a person looks inside. If they look inside, but it just helps doctor it up a little bit on the inside. Got some rust stains along the edges and along some of the brackets and corners. And then as a last thing, I got some used some Vallejo light sienna and muddied it up a little bit inside. So with that, once I get the flat on the seats, I will be ready to glue the top in place. Then I can start working some more on the outside. I've already started, while some of this was drying on the inside, I started attaching exterior details, the lights, some of the fittings, vision ports. Got those on. I put the clevises on here, the mine racks for the sides, which since I'm doing a specific vehicle, it calls for the mine racks on the side, so I installed those. And yeah, that looks like it on that. The turret ring, I got that dirtied up quite a bit, and the Archer transfers, they really turned out nice all along here. And it's kind of cool how you can do use their dry transfers to make water slide, or make, yeah, like water slide decals. I might do a little tutorial on it one of these days, but you can go to the Archer Fine Transfers website. They have videos on YouTube that show how to do the decals, and it's very easy and it works really nice. But anyway, that's dirtied up. I got the inside of the turret. I painted and glossed that, so now I can start doing some washes in there and get this put together as well. I've also got the wheels and tires have been painted. They're still masked here. I can peel that off, I reckon. But those have been painted. I used Tamiya Olive Drab on here, and I really, really like Tamiya Olive Drab paint. It's really nice. So I got that done, and if you're interested in how I did my masks here, I make my own masks using a circle cutter that I got from FlexiFile, and I did a tutorial video on that some time back. So if you want to see how I did that, looks like something you might want to do, which makes things a lot easier than just trying to use a template and hold it in place and spray and all that. I just cut out a bunch of these at once and basically spray the tire portion first, then put my template on here and spray that. But it works out really well. So anyway, I got those painted. The main gun is painted and ready for detail painting on the machine gun, and then I can install that. So I think I'm going to call this video done, and I will come back and work on some more of this stuff and show you where I am. So as always, thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. Stay tuned for more of the M8 Greyhound by Tamiya.